If you're 62 and you've been wondering whether you have enough saved, you've probably already seen the standard answers. 8 times your salary, $1 million, 25 times your annual spending. And the problem with those numbers is they all assume the same thing about you that they assume about everyone else. They assume you're going to retire at the same age with the same expenses and the same income sources, the same plan. Here's what I see working with people at this exact age every single day. The right answer for someone retiring at 62 is completely different from the person who's retiring at 62 but planning to work until 67. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars different, and no one's telling you that. I'm a financial advisor, and in this video, I'm going to show you the two different answers to this question, walk you through how to figure out which one applies to you, and talk through the most dangerous trap I see people fall into at 62 that almost no one plans for. Let's get into it. And real quick, if you want someone to actually look at your situation at 62 and tell you honestly whether you're ready, that's exactly what we do at Riverbend. There's a link in the description below to book a free discovery call. All right, let's start with the standard answer. Let's get the standard answers out of the way fast because you've probably already seen them. And the first one you'll hear is the salary multiplier. Fidelity says by 60, you should have 8 times your salary saved. By 67, 10 times. So if you make $100,000 a year, the target's $800,000 by 60 and then $1 million by 67. The problem is this benchmark assumes your expenses are roughly proportional to your salary. And for a lot of people, that's not the case. Two people earning the same income could have completely different retirement needs. The second number you'll see is the round million. $1 million. It's a clean target and it sounds like a lot of money. And it might be enough for one person and not nearly enough for another. And it depends entirely on what they actually spend. The third one is more accurate. 25 times your annual expenses. This comes from the 4% rule, which you might have heard of. If you spend $60,000 a year, you need about $1.5 million to support that for 30 years. If you spend $80,000, you'd need $2 million. This one is closer to the truth because it's actually tied to your life, not just your paycheck. But here's the thing all three of these benchmarks ignore. They give you one number, regardless of whether you're retiring today or you're going to work for another 5 years. Those are two completely different financial situations. Here's the part nobody talks about. The amount you should have saved at 62 depends entirely on when you actually plan to retire. Let me show you what I mean with two scenarios. Scenario one, you're 62 and you want to retire right now. We'll say your expenses are $6,000 a month. That's $72,000 a year. And you're not collecting Social Security yet because you're planning to wait until 67 because you want to get the full benefit, which we'll say is $2,500 a month. Then from 62 to 67, you have to fund all $72,000 a year entirely from your savings. That's 5 years of full withdrawals before any guaranteed income shows up. Just covering those 5 bridge years takes about $400,000 if you assume some modest growth and inflation. Then at 67, Social Security kicks in. That's $2,500 a month or $30,000 a year. That gap begins to drop. Now you're at $42,000 a year that your savings still needs to cover. Multiply by 25 and you'd want $1.05 million saved at 67. But you've already spent $400,000 from 62 to 67. So to retire at 62 with $6,000 a month in expenses, you'd want somewhere around $1.45 million saved by 62 just to be in a comfortable position. Scenario 2, you're 62 and you're planning to work until 67. Same expenses, same Social Security, but you keep working 5 more years. You keep contributing to your savings. Your portfolio keeps growing and you don't touch any of it. And at 67, you retire. Social Security kicks in immediately at $2,500 a month. Your gap is $42,000 a year that your savings has to cover. Multiply by 25, and your target at 67 is about $1.05 million. But here's the kicker. To have 1.05 at 67 growing at 7% over 5 years, you only need about $750,000 today at 62. And that's assuming you don't contribute another dollar. If you keep saving even modestly during those 5 years, the number you need at 62 is even lower. So the same person with the same expenses and the same retirement lifestyle needs 1.45 million if they want to retire right now and around 750,000 if they're willing to work 5 more years. That's a $700,000 difference. The only variable is when you stop working. So the first question isn't how much should I have saved by 62? It's when do I actually plan to retire? Until you answer that, you can't even start to figure out what the right savings number is for you. Now, if you're watching this and you're realizing that you need to actually run these numbers for your situation, that's something I do every day at Riverbend. We'll look at your real expenses, your real Social Security, and we'll tell you exactly which scenario you're in and then what your target should be. There's a link in the description below to book a free discovery call. All right, let's talk about the trap. Here's the trap I see people fall into at 62. They look at their total savings, they divide it by 25, then they think they're set. What they don't account for is that the first 5 to 8 years of retirement, from roughly 62 to 67 or 70, those can be the most dangerous years of your entire financial life. I like to call these the bridge years, and they're where most retirement plans get in trouble. There are 3 specific risks during this window that don't apply to any other time of your life. The first is what we call sequence of returns risk. If you retire at 62 and then the market decides to drop by 20% in your first year while you're pulling money out, your portfolio is going to take a hit that it cannot fully recover from. Even if the market goes back up later, the money you withdrew during the downturn is gone and it's not there to grow back. A 20% loss in year 30 of your retirement isn't that big of a deal. You're already towards the end, so this is not going to change your life. But a 20% loss in year 1, it could permanently change what you spend for the next 25 years. The second risk is the healthcare cliff. Medicare doesn't start until 65. So from 62 to 65, you're funding your own health insurance. And if you're buying it on the ACA marketplace, the subsidies you qualify for, they're based on your income. And your income is determined by how much you're pulling from each particular type of account. You pull too much from your pre-tax IRA, your 401k, and your income could spike, then you could lose thousands of dollars in premium help. Pull too little, and you can't cover your expenses. The healthcare gap can easily cost someone $15,000 to $25,000 a year per person if you're not strategic about it. The third risk is one almost no one talks about, and is psychological. At 62, you feel like you have time, like you've got 25 to 30 years ahead of you. But the math does not care about how you feel. The first 5 years of retirement are disproportionately determining the next 25 years. The decisions you make at 62 about how aggressively you invest or how much to withdraw and where to pull the money from, those decisions either set you up or set you back for everything that comes later. So if you're 62 and you're looking at your number, here's what I'd do. Here's what I'd add to the math. Whatever you think you need, you should have a separate plan for the bridge year's money. Some of your savings, ideally 3 to 5 years of expenses, and it should be in a safer, more accessible account. Not because you're going to be super conservative for the long term, but because you can't afford a bad year right when you're starting out. The people who get this right, they don't just have one bucket of money. They have a bridge years bucket and it's protected from market swings, and then a lifelong retirement bucket that's invested for growth. That separation is what protects them from the trap. Once you've figured out your actual number based on when you plan to retire, you'll know whether you're ahead, on track, or behind. And each one of those has a different next move. If you're ahead, the biggest mistake I see is continuing to accumulate without intention. Let's say your number's 1.2 million and you've got 2 million. Well, you've got options most people don't. You could retire earlier than you plan. You could spend more on the things you care about. You could help your kids. You could give more away. Surplus money sitting unused, that's not winning. Knowing what your extra is for, that's a winning strategy. If you're on track, the work begins to shift. You're not focusing on saving more. You start focusing on protecting what you've already built and using it well. That means choosing when to take Social Security, planning your tax situation year by year, and deciding the right order to pull from your accounts. Being on track at 62 doesn't mean the plan runs itself. It just means you've earned the right to think about it in a different set of questions. If you're behind, take a breath. The math is harder, but it's not broken. The single most powerful thing you can do is keep working longer than you originally planned. Every additional year of work adds contributions, it adds growth, and it reduces the number of years your savings needs to last. We covered this in detail in another video, but if you're 62 and behind, working until 65 or 67 instead of retiring now could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional security. The other options are saving more aggressively in the years you have left, adjusting your expenses target, or just reconsidering the retirement age. None of these are fun. All of them are real. Whatever situation you're in, the most important thing at 62 is to stop guessing and start knowing. Run your numbers based on your actual plan, not someone else's benchmark, and you'll know exactly where you stand. So now you know how to figure out how much you should actually have saved by 62 based on your specific situation, not someone else's benchmark. If you want to see what those numbers actually do once you start drawing from them, I made a video that walks through that right here. I go through what $1 million in retirement savings can actually generate in monthly income when you factor in things like Social Security, taxes, and withdrawal strategy. I'll see you there.